Could I begin with your opinion, first of all? What do you think of Bill C-14 as it was handed to the Senate at the end of last week?
Well, I think it's unconstitutional, and we're going to hear from Professor Hogg today, who's probably the leading constitutional expert in the country, and I believe that's his view as well, that it does. The Supreme Court of Canada, in the Carter decision, affirmed that Canadians who meet certain eligibility criteria are entitled to access medical assistance in dying, and the government bill restricts access below that threshold, and I think that makes the bill unconstitutional.
Okay, so it falls short because it is too restrictive in your estimation.
That's correct.
So then I'm wondering what you think is going to be happening. You're going to be hearing today and tomorrow as far as a time frame for witnesses and other sort of, you'll go clause by clause before the Senate Legal Committee to go through the bill as it exists right now?
Well, this bill, as you know, was in the House of Commons for 6 weeks or so, right, from the middle of April. We got it on Tuesday of last week, and we immediately moved. We heard both Ministers Philpott and Wilson-Raybould in Committee of the Whole before the whole Senate on Wednesday. And then we had debates on Thursday and Friday in the Senate. Many senators participated in the debate. And then at the end of that, we passed second reading and sent it to our Legal and Constitutional Affairs Committee, which is going to meet this morning and tomorrow morning. And they will report back to the Senate on Tuesday, and then we'll begin the debate at third reading. So
it looks like the end of this week at the earliest that could go to a vote, do you think?
Well, I think that's the earliest. We'll see. I mean, this is a very important piece of legislation, and I certainly agree that it is important to get legislation in place, but it's equally important, or perhaps more important, to get the right legislation in place. I think that if we were to pass a piece of legislation which is flawed from a constitutional point of view, then we'd be putting Canadians through a lot of unnecessary litigation and expense, and that would add uncertainty. That we should take the time to get it right, and that's what we're doing. There's no partisanship in the Senate on this. Colleagues from all throughout the chamber are equally concerned about the bill. Different aspects, they have different concerns, but they're taking it very seriously, and we're doing the job we're supposed to do.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, there is a real sense of the import, the significance of the legislation, but no sense of pressure to get it rushed through just because here we are, deadline day, and it's been missed.
Yeah, I haven't met a single senator who's interested in delaying this at all. We want to deal with it properly. We are the House of sober second thought. We're taking this very seriously. We're looking at it. We want to pass the best bill we can. And that's what we're going to do, and if it takes a week or two to do that, then that's what it'll take.
In the interim, there is the legal void that the Justice Minister has warned of, and I'm wondering some of her specific concerns, because the legislation is not in place as of today, that doctors will potentially refuse to provide medical assistance in dying to those who are eligible, or conversely, will allow those who are perhaps not eligible under the terms of the legislation to access medically assisted dying. She's expressed concerns about those two scenarios. Do you share those concerns of a legal void? No.
No, I don't. I don't think we have a legal void at all. I think we have, the Carter decision came down several years ago. In my view, it's very clear as to who is eligible to access this service, and the provincial colleges of physicians and surgeons in every province and territory have worked diligently since then, based upon the eligibility criteria set out by the Supreme Court of Canada, and they have crafted guidelines for physicians, protections, waiting periods, second opinions, forms of request, all that sort of thing, and doctors will look to their provincial colleges for guidance as to the way in which they practice medicine, because the delivery of health care, as you know, is a provincial jurisdiction. So that's what's happened, and Dr. Grant, who's the president of the organization of provincial regulators, issued a statement on Friday saying that Canadians who qualify under the Carter criteria, as of today, will be able to access physicians who will provide the service across the country. And I think you referenced earlier in this introduction Minister Hoskins in
Yes.
Ontario, who said much the same thing.
Yes, just laid out particularly what will be the scenario in Ontario as of today. I'm wondering, it's been very interesting to hear both MPs and also your fellow senators talk about personal thoughts on this. They've expressed just obviously the significance of this, the difficulty in coming to what is the right legislation for this country. For you personally, has there been any personal experience that is informing your thinking, your thought process on this issue?
Well, we all have friends and family members who have suffered from intolerable, from horrible diseases and conditions, and I think for a long time there's been a sense that we need to have this service available in Canada for people. It's not going to be forced on anybody. Nobody's suggesting that anybody would make any decisions for anybody else. This is a decision, a personal decision, and this is all about choice. And I think that the Supreme Court of Canada, in my view, quite clearly and quite rightly set out precisely who it is who's entitled to do that. And I think that Canadians, certainly when Canadians who write to me, that I meet in the course of my daily activities, are wholeheartedly in support of this access. And I think most people are concerned and surprised that the government would adopt such a restrictive approach.
Senator Cowan, a pleasure to have you on the program today. We'll be following as you begin the process of going through those clauses and listening to those witnesses, and we'll be following proceedings very closely. Thank you, sir.